speaking with Reverend C.B. Moss, and we're talking about homelessness, which takes us into so many different issues. Just before the break, you alluded to it, Reverend Moss. People who could actually work and could do things but don't want to, who enjoy this irresponsible lifestyle. And I think to me, which is something that as a 62-year-old man that you never used to see growing up, how men have no big grown men who are strapping men who can do work, but who have no shame in asking you for $1 or 50 cents or whatever it is that they can ask you for. And of course that I guess in itself could actually dissuade people from trying to help. Because they figure,
of course, boy, go get a job.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Well, at least wash my car.
Of course.
Something, How do we, first of all, how do you think we got to that attitude?
Well, and we should not address that specifically.
Well, we shouldn't support it for sure.
We look at the cause. Over the last number of decades, this society has not been fair to the men, to the male. I like to think of them being somewhat emasculated by this society. And the end product is what you see and what you're talking about. There was a time that men worked. They knew they had to work. They knew they had to take care of their families. But when you look at our society, which is a matriarchal society, the men from infancy are just, in their minds, suppressed. And when they reach a certain age, they say, I don't care anymore. They lose that sense of pride. And I see some validity to their feeling. In the home, the girls are treated differently from the boys. And the boys get the impression that they're not important. When darkness began to fall, Daddy would say, where's Mary? Who's Mary doing?
But they don't care if John wandering the streets.
That's the point. Now, Mary on one hand thinks, oh, he allows John to do this. Why? But he's doing that, as we know, for protection. Then they grow up out of the home. They go into the schools. What do you have in the primary schools? Nearly all female teachers. And so they're beginning to see that the positions of dominance are held by women. And
although women will argue that they're still not treated equally as far as...
See, like any problem, there are several sides.
Exactly.
And each has validity.
True.
Okay? But the men were left... And recently, the Minister of Education alluded to that. And I said to myself, thank God, you all are just beginning to realize that. Because men presents a figure of authority more than women in most cases. Although in specific cases that's not so, because in my family as we grew up, my mother was a disciplinarian. She made sure that everything, but generally speaking, men are expected to carry more weight. With the father not in the home to a large extent. With the teachers being to a large extent females, right straight through to senior school. And then they leave school and enter the mainstream society. Nothing much changes. Females are treated preferentially in many ways. And at the same time, females have not been treated preferentially. In fact, they have been treated subordinately. But that's how these men see it. And so their entire lives have been, by their thinking, dominated by women. Do this, do that, do the next thing. And so in school, they began to just withdraw. They just began to leave the whole thing. I mean, just began to back away from the whole thing.
Which puts them at a greater disadvantage because when they come out of school with no qualifications.
That's the point. And I maintain that we must get more males into these schools. Because these
As teachers, you mean?
as teachers as teachers and administrators, most of the principals, at least those who we see in public, are females. Vice principals, seniors. We must get more males. Now I realize, as somebody said, well, the pay scale is such, it's not attractive to males. Well, don't do a disservice to our women. Pay them too.
Of course.
Pay them too, but also raise the pay that will attract men into the system. But administratively, in the Ministry of Education, all women, basically. And so the young men growing up begin to feel oppressed. And then they leave school unqualified to really achieve any no job, but they blame it now, this society. They don't accept that.
So that's why they're begging us now, because they think we owe them.
Listen, I have said this for years. I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist, but just from my observation, Bahamian males really have a great animosity towards a female.
A misogynist society, in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is because they feel victimized.
And like I said, neither of us is a psychologist or sociologist, but that's probably why you're seeing this increased domestic violence and rape
Absolutely,
that's going on.
Because
it's really out of a dislike,
hatred,
hatred, if you will.
I maintain this was included as a part of my sermon last Sunday in church to try to get people to understand. With, how do I put this delicately and in good taste? With all of the free women in this town, the problem is with the man, he has to try and get rid of some of the women. Why would he go and rape? And why would he go and rape someone who does not present the normal image of being beautiful, attractive, desirable? Therefore, as a psychologist, rape is not a problem of sex.
No, it's an
problem
act
of
of
violence.
Yeah.
No, it's violence. I believe that when these young men subject the women to physical violence, they're saying, yeah, you take that, as if they're paying back. Now I feel that I'm able to finally be a man. Because throughout this life in society, when you turn your television on, most of the people, again, I don't want to use the word most because I don't know, but most of the people who appear on television on behalf of the government and the government agencies and the different organizations are women. Are women. And I'm not rapping that.
No,
because they're better prepared. But I'm just trying to show the scope of the problem. Because where there's a perpetrator, there's a victim. And sometimes the perpetrator can also be the victim in another sense. And so that's where our problem is. So a lot of these young men grow up not having an interest in working. I'll get from society, I'll sponge off society, I'll steal, I'll do whatever, I'll sell drugs, I'll do whatever I have to do. It's almost a way, in my humble opinion, of them getting back at society without them even realizing it. I don't think it's a conscious.
But you know, the thing is, I get what you're saying, but it seems like it's going to be a long time coming before we can change this.
That's my point. We must develop short-term and long-term strategies. And I don't see that in our society. And that's because I don't think we fully recognize what's going on in the society. A lot of our young men that we just cast off as being violent, nobody there, forget them. They're really wonderful people, you know. Really wonderful people. And the proof of this is, I don't mind who you are. If you walk down the street and you see a group of young men, they look hostile, you start to get frightened. But you walk in and say, hi, good morning, and you watch. It's almost as if that aggressive thing just melts away. And especially if you're a woman. When you say good morning, I have seen situations where women could go and diffuse a situation where the man can, for example. I've seen situations where men, adversaries getting ready to fight and have a knife or gun, all a woman, any woman, but particularly an elderly woman has to do is just go and say, son, don't get yourself in no trouble. That has a more powerful impact on the boy.
It's interesting, because, you talk about people on the blocks, but, maybe they're afraid to say good morning because you wouldn't respond to them.
There you go.
We're waiting for them to respond to us.
Absolutely.
But,
people, to bring this point home, people talk about Baintown being so dangerous, being so violent. Julian, I feel safest in Baintown. I'm more afraid of where I actually live, but I feel safe because...
And you've been in that community for how many years now, your church?
Oh, about 38 years.
Wow, that's a lifetime.
About 38 years, a lifetime. And really, it's safer than many other parts of the country, but it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. People don't expect much, and so they don't get much. The people, especially young people, and more especially young men, they respond to the expectation of people. And I think we must really do a deep dive into what's going on in our society, because most of us, particularly our leaders, don't have a clue. Do not have a clue. And the people who can help them are not appreciated by them, because there are people on the streets who can really make an impact on this problem, but they're not given an opportunity.
Yeah, we really have to all put our energies and resources together to do something about it, because really at the end of the day, we all suffer if we don't do something about it. What I would like to do now is we're going to take a quick break,
Okay.
and we'll come back with more after this.